The desperate plea for mercy that awakened humanity's wrath, the scream, came through the speakers before I could even sit down in my chair. I had a coffee cup in my hand and I dropped it. The hot liquid splashed across the floor of the bridge and nobody noticed because every single person on my ship was staring at the main speaker like it was a ghost. My name is Captain Henry Brooks and I have been flying ships for the Earth Survey Fleet for almost 20 years. I have heard every kind of signal a person can hear in deep space, distress calls, static from dying stars, the quiet hum of nothing at all, but I had never heard anything like this. It was a voice that did not belong to any human being. It was high and shaking and it was crying. The sound came in waves like the speaker was trying to push out words, but kept losing the strength to do it. Behind the voice, I could hear other sounds crashing, a deep boom that shook the recording, smaller voices maybe, children screaming in some language I could not understand. My second in command, Lieutenant Clara Holt, was standing next to her station, with her hand pressed against her mouth. The communications officer, a young man named Peter Walsh, was hitting buttons with shaking fingers, trying to clean up the signal. Captain Peter said, "Translation matrix is working on it. Give me 30 seconds. I picked up the broken pieces of my coffee cup and put them on the corner of the console. I do not know why I did that. My hands needed something to do." The voice on the speaker kept crying. "Where is it coming from?" I asked. 6 light years off our route, sir," Clara said. Her voice was tight. "A system we have not mapped yet. The signal is broadcasting on every frequency we have, and a few we don't even use anymore. Whoever this is, they are pointing the message at the whole sky. They want anyone to hear it." The translation matrix beeped. Words started to come through, mixed with the voice, slow and broken. "Please, we have nothing. We surrender. We give everything. Please, children, we have children. Please show kindness. Please, anyone who can hear us. Please." The bridge was silent. My crew was 42 people. We were a science ship. We had 2 small defense weapons that we used to break up small rocks, and that was it. We were not soldiers. We were mappers and scientists and engineers. We had a doctor named Margaret Lowe who had never treated a serious wound in her life. We had a cook named Daniel Pierce who made the best apple pie in the fleet. We had a navigator named Sophie Bell who was 24 years old and missed her mother. We were not the people who should be answering this kind of message, Sir. Clara said quietly. Earth command rules say we cannot move toward an unknown signal. Snorts. We have to report it and stay on our path. You know that. I knew that. Every captain knew that the rules were there for a reason. We had no idea what was happening in that system. There could be ships there that would tear us apart in seconds. There could be a sickness that would kill my whole crew. The rules were there to keep ships like mine from flying into something we could not handle. But the voice kept crying, and then a new voice came through, smaller and younger, saying the same words in the same language. A child asking for help. I looked at Clara. She looked back at me. I could see in her eyes that she already knew what I was going to say, and I could see that she agreed. "Sophie," I said, "plot a course to that system. Best speed." Sophie did not say a word. She just started moving her fingers across her console. Numbers flew across her screen. "Peter," I said, "send a Message to Earth Command. Tell them what? We heard. Tell them where we are going. Tell them we will report when we know. More. Yes, sir, Peter said. Clara, I said, wake up the rest of the crew. I want everyone at their stations. I want our shields at full power. I want our 2 small weapons charged and ready, even though they will probably not help. And I want our medical bay ready for guests. Guests, sir? Clara asked. Whoever sent that message. I said, we are going to bring some of them home. Clara nodded. She moved fast. The trip to the unknown system took 6 hours at our best speed. 6 hours of sitting in my chair, listening to that signal play over and over. The voice kept crying. The child kept asking. Sometimes the signal would fade for a few minutes and we would all hold our breath thinking it had ended. Then it would come back weaker than before. I went to my room for 10 minutes during the trip. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the picture of my daughter on the small table. Her name is Lily. She is 8 years old. She has my wife's hair and my eyes. She drew a picture for me before I left of a rocket ship with a smiling face, and I had it taped to the wall above the table. I thought about Lily and I thought about that child's voice on the speaker, and I went back to the bridge when we dropped out of jump speed near the unknown system. The bridge went very quiet. I think we all stopped breathing at the same time. The planet ahead of us should have been beautiful. I could tell just by looking at the shape of it and the clouds in the upper atmosphere that this had been a green and blue world a few weeks ago. It had probably looked a lot like Earth. There were places where I could still see the shapes of oceans and the curves of what used to be coastlines. But now the planet was black, not the soft black of night, but a deep, ugly black, like something had been cooked. Snort's long red lines burned through the surface, glowing through the smoke that covered most of the world. The atmosphere was thick with ash and dust. Whole continents looked broken, like someone had taken a hammer to them. Around the dying planet, hundreds of ships floated in the cold. Most of them were broken in half or had holes punched through them or were drifting with no power. They were beautiful ships, even broken. They were shaped like long flowers with curving lines and soft colors that I had never seen in any human design. Whoever built these ships had loved making them. You could see the care in every line. Sir Peter said, his voice almost a whisper, the signal is coming from one of those ships, the big one near the moon. I looked at the screen. The big ship was the only one still glowing with power. It was holding together, but only just. I could see places where its hull was cracked open and small clouds of escaping air drifted around it like fog. Take us in slowly, I said, hands away from the weapons. I want our lights on bright and our whole markings showing. I want them to see exactly what we are. Sophie moved us forward, gentle and slow. I felt every meter of the journey in my chest. When we got close to the big ship, a small light blinked on its side, a door opening just a little. They are inviting us, Clara said. They have docking port. They want us to come aboard. Tell them we are coming, I said. Margaret, get your medical kit. Clara, you have the bridge. I am going over there, sir. You should not be the one to go. Clara said, that is not the rule. I know what the rule is. I said, I am still going. Whoever is on that ship needs to see a captain. They need to know that someone took this seriously. I did not tell her the other reason. The other reason was that I had been thinking about Lily for 6 hours, and I Could not sit on this bridge one more minute without doing something with my hands. We crossed over to the big ship. In a small shuttle, Margaret came with me and two of my engineers, a woman named Grace Holloway and a man named Owen Chase. We did not bring weapons. It did not seem like the right thing to bring. The inside of the alien ship was warm and full of soft light. The air smelled strange, a little like flowers, and a little like old paper. The walls were the color of a sunset everywhere. We walked, we saw signs of damage. Burned panels, broken doors, long dark streaks that I did not want to think about too much. A figure waited for us. In the main hall, she was tall, taller than any of us. Her skin was pale and clear, almost see-through, and I could see soft blue lines moving under it like rivers. Her eyes were huge and wet, and they were a deep dark color that I had no name for. She wore a long robe that had once been white but now had dust and burn marks on it. She held herself up with one hand against the wall. She looked very, very tired. You came, she said. The translator on my belt turned her words into English. Her voice was soft but clear. We did not believe anyone would come. My name is Henry Brooks, I said. I am the captain of the Earthship Patience. We heard your message. How can we help you? The tall woman closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, water fell from them. Just like human water, just like tears. My name is Vashon, she said. I am the last speaker of my people. We were called the Telari. We numbered 4 billion 3 weeks ago. Now we are 8,000. I did not know what to say. Margaret made a small sound next to me. Grace put her hand on the wall like she needed something to hold on to. Who did this to you? I asked. Vashon's eyes moved up to look at me. There was something in her face that I had never seen on any face before, a kind of ending. They are called the Krevon, he said. They have been doing this for 1,000 years. They go from system to system. They find peaceful peoples. They demand everything. We gave them everything. We gave them our ships, our cities, our food. We told them they could have it all. Snorts. We only asked for the lives of our children. She took a slow breath. They told us that asking for kindness was a sign of weakness. They told us that any people who beg deserve to end. They said the sky must be cleaned of all who plead. Then they did this. She raised her hand and pointed out the window at the burned planet below. How many other peoples have they done this to? I asked. Vesson looked at me for a long time before she answered. You are the 43rd people they have come for, she said. Your world is next. They follow the signals of the dying. They are coming. I felt cold all the way through me. Cold. How long do we have? I asked. They are already moving. Vesson said. They will be here in 3 days. They will see your ship. They will mark you, and then they will go to your home. I stood there in that warm, soft light on a ship full of the last of a beautiful people, and I thought about Lily. I thought about her drawing of the rocket. I thought about my wife Anna, who would be making dinner right now, back in our little house in the green hills. I thought about every person on Earth, billions of them, who had no idea that something was coming. And then I thought about something else. I thought about the fact that the Creon had never met us. They had never met humans. They thought we were like the others. They thought we would beg. I looked at Vashon. I looked at my crew. I looked at the burned world below us. Vashon, I said, I need to send a message home. I Need to tell them everything, will you? Let me record your words, will you tell my people what was done to your people? Why, she asked, will it save you? No, I said, but it might save someone else. Somewhere down the road, and it will. Make sure that my people understand what is coming. My people do not always do well when we are surprised, but when we know what we are facing, when we have time to think, when we hear the truth. I stopped. I did not have the right words. My people are not like your people, I finally said. I do not know if that is good or bad, but they need to hear your voice, all of it, every word. Vesson looked at me for a long time. I will speak, she said. Tell your people what was done. Tell them everything. We started recording. I did not know it. Then standing on that broken ship with that tired and brave woman, but the words she gave us in the next 2 hours would change the shape of the galaxy. Forever, they would wake something up on Earth that had been sleeping for a long time. They would wake up the part of us that does not beg. The recording took 2 hours and 17 minutes. Vesson spoke without stopping, except when her breath grew short and she had to rest her hand against the wall. She told us things that made Margaret leave the room twice. She told us things that made Grace sit down on the floor and just stare at her hands. She told us about the children of her people. She told us about the music they had made, the books they had written, the gardens they had grown for 10,000 years. She told us how the Krevan had laughed when her leaders begged. She told us the exact words the Krevan commander had used, and the translator did not soften them, and I made myself listen to every single one. When she was done, she sat down on a low bench and looked very small. It is finished, she said. Send it now before they come back. I gave the small recording disc to Owen Chase and sent him back to our shuttle with orders to fly straight to the patients and beam the message to Earth on Emergency Channel 1. Owen ran. He did not walk. I have known Owen for 6 years. I have never seen him run before. While we waited, I sat down next to Vess. On the bench, Margaret was checking the wounds of 3 Tari children who had been brought into the hall. The children were quiet. They watched her with those big dark eyes, and they did not cry even when she cleaned a deep cut on the smallest one's arm. Tari children, I learned, only cry when they are happy. When they are scared, they go silent. Silence in that room was the worst thing I had ever heard. How many of your people are still alive on the ship? I asked Vashon. On this ship 400, she said. On 6 other ships in this system. Perhaps 7,000 more. Most are wounded. Many will not live another week without proper care. Our medicines are gone. Our food is almost gone. We have been waiting and waiting, hoping someone would hear. How long have you been broadcasting? I asked. 11 days, she said. We started the moment the last city fell. We did not really think it would matter. The Krevan have hunted in this part of the sky for centuries. Everyone who lives here knows their name. Everyone who lives here knows that helping the marked is the same as becoming marked yourself. We thought no one would dare. We did not know who you were. I said, we did not know about the Krevan. We came because someone was crying. Vesson turned her head to look at me. Her dark eyes searched my face. You came because of crying, she said slowly, like she was testing the words. You did not know us. You did not know if we were dangerous. You did not know if we would harm you. You came anyway. Yes, I said, and you say your people will be the same when they hear my Words, I thought about that for a long moment. I thought about my wife and my daughter. I thought about the people I had grown up with, the ones who shoveled snow off their neighbors' driveways, the ones who raised money for children they had never met, the ones who pulled strangers out of burning cars. But I also thought about the other side of my people, the harder side, the side that did not forget, the side that, when pushed past a certain point, became something altogether different, I think. So I said, I think they will care. I also think they will be very, very angry. Vesson nodded slowly. She did not ask me what that meant. I think she could tell. I did not entirely know myself. A bell rang somewhere on the ship. Vesson looked up sharply, and so did the other Telari in the hall. The pale light in the walls flickered, then steadied. What was that? I asked. A ship just dropped out of fast travel near the edge of the system, Vesson said. Her voice was suddenly thin. Only one, a scout. Perhaps the Creon always sends scouts before the main fleet. I stood up so fast that my knee popped. I tapped my wrist communicator. Clara, I said, tell me you are seeing what they are seeing. Yes, sir. Clara said, one ship, small, fast, Creon design, matches the records Vesson gave us. It is moving toward us slowly. It has not opened any weapon ports yet. How long until it gets to us? 20 minutes, maybe a little less. Get Owen back from the patients the moment he sends that message. I want everyone back on our ship. I want the docking clamps released and the engines warm, Sir. Clara said. What about the Telari? We cannot leave them here. I looked at Vashon. Vesson looked at the wounded children. Margaret was still cleaning up. How many of your people on the ship can move? I asked. All of them if they must, Vashon said. But we have nowhere to go. The patients cannot hold 400 people, much less 7,000. It can hold 400 for a few days if we use every space we have. I said, we will figure out the rest later. Vashon, tell your people on the other 6 ships to power down. Tell them to play dead. Tell them to do nothing that will make the scout look at them. We will come back for them. They will not believe you, she said softly. Tell them anyway, I said. Vashon rose to her feet. She took a deep breath, and then she began to speak in her own language into a small device on her wrist. Her voice was weak but firm. She did not have to speak for long. Telari did not argue with her. I do not think they had the strength to argue with anyone anymore. The next 20 minutes were the longest of my life. We moved the 400 Tari onto our shuttle in groups, 8 at a time. The shuttle was meant to carry 12 people. We packed it with 30 each trip. Grace stood inside it with her back against the wall, helping people sit down on the floor, putting children on laps, telling everyone to breathe slowly. Margaret worked at the entrance, deciding which wounded people had to be carried and which could walk. I stood at the docking port of the Tari ship, counting heads, making sure no one was left behind. Vesson came on the last trip. She walked with 2 other Telari who held her arms. She was the senior speaker of her people, and she would not leave until every other person on her ship had gone first. When she finally stepped onto the shuttle, she turned and looked back at the warm, soft halls one last time. Her hand touched the door frame. Her lips moved in some quiet word. In her language, a goodbye, a thank you, a prayer. I did not ask her what she said. It was not my business. We pulled away from the Telari ship just as the Krevon Scout came into clear view on our screens. The scout was small and ugly. Like a thrown spear, black metal, no softness anywhere on it. It moved fast and direct with the calm of something that had killed many times before and expected to kill many more. Sir Peter said over the comm as our shuttle docked. Back on the Patience, the scout is hailing us, audio only. Put it through. To my wrist piece I said, helping the last Tari woman down the shuttle ramp. Voice came through deep and slow and very calm. The translator turned it into English in real time. Unknown vessel. The voice said, you are in the cleansing zone of the Creon. Identify yourself. I stepped away from the docking bay. Margaret took over the work of guiding the Telari into our cargo holds where every spare blanket and ration pack on the ship was already being laid out. I walked fast toward the bridge. This is Captain Henry Brooks of the Earthship Patience, I said into my wrist. We are a science vessel. We are leaving the area. Now we do not seek conflict. There was a silence, then the voice came back, sounding amused. A new species. How interesting, Captain Brooks. You have aided the marked. By the laws of the cleansing, your world is now also marked. You will deliver the survivors back to the dying world. You will then return to your own home and prepare it. The cleansing will arrive in your system within 1 of your years. Do not run, do not hide, do not beg. To beg is to invite a slower ending. This is the only mercy we will offer. Do you understand? I reached the bridge. Clara stood up from my chair and stepped aside. I sat down. My hands were steady. I had been afraid all the way up the corridor, but the moment I sat in that chair and looked at the screen, my hands went steady. I did not know why. Maybe I did know why. Maybe it was because I had finally understood somewhere deep inside what was being asked of me and what was not. I understand you, I said. Then comply, the Creon voice said. No, I said. There was a silence on the line, a very long silence. I could almost feel the surprise on the other end of the connection. I do not think this voice had ever heard that word before. Repeat your last, the voice finally said. No, I said again. I am not going to deliver these people back to be ended. I am taking them home with me. And when I get home, I am going to play the recording I made today on every news station on every continent of my world. I am going to show my people exactly what your people have done, and then I am going to wait and watch and see what my people decide to do about it. Another silence. You speak as if your people are dangerous, the voice said. There was a hint of something in it now, curiosity, almost like a person who had found a strange bug and was poking it with a stick. You speak as if your warning means anything. We have ended 42 civilizations, Captain Brooks. We have ended ones with great fleets and ones with great minds. We have ended ones who fought and ones who knelt. None of them were dangerous in the end. None of them are remembered. Why should yours be different? I leaned forward in my chair. I looked at the small, ugly ship on my screen. I thought about everything Vesson had told me. I thought about the children in my cargo hold who only cried when they were happy. I thought about my own daughter, who had drawn a rocket ship for me with a smiling face and who lived on a green and blue planet that was now 42 days away from being burned. I do not know if my people will be different, I said quietly. Maybe we will be, maybe we will not, but I will tell you one thing for certain. You have spent 1,000 years ending peoples who heard you coming and tried to talk you out of it. You have never once met a people who heard you coming and decided to stop talking and start preparing. I do not know what will happen when you reach my world, but I think you are about to find out something new about the universe. I cut the connection. The bridge was quiet. Clara looked at me. Sophie looked at me. Peter looked at me. Every face on that bridge had the same expression. It was the look of people who had just heard their captain promise something they were not sure he could deliver. I did not look at them. I looked at the screen, where the Creon scout was already turning, already heading back to wherever it had come from, already carrying the news of our refusal. Sophie, I said, plot the fastest course home, use every shortcut, use every trick. I do not care if we burn out the engines. Yes, sir, Sophie said. Peter, I said, send another message to Earth Command. Market Priority 1, tell them we are coming home with refugees. Tell them to be ready and tell them. I stopped. I tried to think of the right words. Tell them that the recording I am sending them is the most important thing they will hear in their lives. Tell them to play it everywhere, every screen, every speaker, every home. Tell them my people need to hear this voice. Yes, sir, Peter said. I sat back in my chair. The patience turned slowly in space. The dying planet of the Telari fell away behind us. Ahead of us, a long road home. In my cargo hold, 400 survivors of a beautiful and finished people slept on blankets and prayed in their soft language for the 7,000 they had left behind. In my pocket, the small recording disc held the voice of Vashon, ready to be sent across the stars and on Earth, more than 3 billion miles ahead of us. My daughter Lily was probably eating breakfast right now, sitting at our kitchen table with no idea that the sky was about to open and tell her the truth. I closed my eyes. I had 11 days of travel ahead of me, 11 days to think about what I had done, 11 days to wonder if I had made a terrible mistake, but I do not think I had. I think, looking back, that I had only done what any captain would do, what any father would do, what any person who has ever heard another person crying in the dark would do. I had answered. The journey home took 11 days, 4 hours and 27 minutes. I remember the exact time because I watched every second of it tick by from my chair on the bridge. Even when I should have been sleeping, we did not sleep much, any of us. The Tari needed too much from us. Margaret worked 30-hour stretches in our medical bay, then slept for 3 hours, then went back. Daniel, our cook, gave up the kitchen entirely and started teaching Telari adults how to use our food machines because there were too many mouths for him to feed alone. Grace and Owen rebuilt half of our cargo hold into a sleeping space, fitting in beds and benches and small private corners because the Telari did not like to sleep in open rooms after what had happened to them. I spent most of my time on the bridge, but I went down to the cargo hold every night. I would walk slowly through the new beds and I would say hello to anyone who was awake. Most of them did not speak our language, and the translators were tied up doing more important work, but a smile was the same in every language. A nod was the same. Hand on a shoulder was the same. On the 5th night, I found Vesson sitting alone in a small corner that someone had built for her out of crates and a soft blue cloth. She had a small light next to her and she was reading from a thin Metal book. She looked up when I came. Near Captain, she said. Vashan, I said, I do not want to bother you, just checking in. Sit, she said. I sat down on a crate across from her. How is your ship? She asked. How are your people holding up? Tired, I said. Worried, trying to understand what we are flying into. And you, Captain? I rubbed my face with both hands. I had not shaved in 5 days. There was gray in my beard that I had not noticed before. I keep wondering if I should have done something different, I said. If I should have just delivered the message and left, if I should not have brought you all aboard, if I should not have spoken to that scout the way I did. You are wondering if you have caused what is coming, Vesson said. I nodded. Captain, she said gently, the Kreven were already coming for your world. They cleanse all peoples in this part of the sky who reach a certain level of star travel. Your world was already on their list. They were going to find you within 20 of your years, no matter what you did. Only thing you have changed is that your people will know it is coming, and they will know why. I looked at her. You did not tell me that before. I said. I did not want you to feel that you had to come, she said. It was important to me that you came because you wanted to come, not because you felt you owed us anything. That is a very kind thing to do for a stranger. I said. You did a kinder thing for me, she said. You came when no one else came. We sat in silence for a while. Snorts. The hum of the engines was soft around us. Somewhere far away, a child laughed in the Tari tongue. It was the first time I had heard a Tari laugh. What do you think your people will do when they hear my words? Vesson asked. I had thought about this question every hour of every day since we had left the dying system. I had not yet found an answer that I trusted. I do not know, I said honestly. We are confusing people. We argue about everything. We have 100 countries, and they all have their own ideas. We have wasted whole years arguing about small things while big things passed us by. There is a part of me that worries. We will hear your story and we will say the right things, and we will hold meetings, and we will write papers, and then we will forget, because that is what we sometimes do. And the other part, Vess, thinks that there is something inside my people that we do not show very often. Something old, something that goes back to when we lived in caves and there were big animals in the dark, something that wakes up when we really know that someone wants to end us. I do not see it often. Most days I am glad I do not see it, but I have seen it once or twice in small ways on small problems, and I think it is real, and I think your message will wake it up. Vashan tilted her head slightly. It was a Telari gesture, like a human nodding. That is a strange thing to say about your own people, she said. It is a strange thing to feel, I said. We did not talk much more that night. I left her with her book and went back to the bridge, but her question stayed with me. What would my people do? On the 7th day, I got my first answer. Message came through from Earth Command. It was a long one. The first part was official. The patient was given a clear flight path home with priority over all other traffic. We were to dock at the Pacific Orbital Station, where medical teams and diplomatic teams would be waiting. The Telari would be cared for. We were not to worry about that. Second part of the message was less official. It was a personal note from Admiral Margaret Hill, the commander of the Earth Fleet. I had met her twice in my career, both times briefly. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that did not blink very often. The note read like this: Captain Brooks, your recording arrived 2 days ago. We have analyzed it. We have analyzed your report. We have analyzed every word from the Krevon Scout that you transmitted to us. We have shared all of it with the world governments. The world governments have shared all of it with their people. As of this morning, every human being on Earth and in the colonies has heard the voice of Vashon and the voice of the Krevon commander, everyone. Since that broadcast, we have received more than 3 billion direct messages from the public. They are still coming in. I want you to know what they are saying. They are saying one word mostly over and over, from every country, from every age, from every faith. The word is no. We are not going to be the 43rd. Stay safe. Captain, bring our guests home, then come find me. We have work to do. Hill. I read the note 3 times. Then I put it down on my console and I sat for a long time without speaking. Clara was watching me. I could tell even though I was not looking at her. What does it say, sir? She asked quietly. I did not trust my voice yet. I gestured for her to read it herself. She came over and read it, and she let out a long, slow breath when she was done. They heard. She said the whole world heard. They heard. I said, what do you think they are doing right now? She asked. I shook my head. I do not know, I said, but I think we are going to find out very soon. We did find out. The patients came home on the morning of the 11th day. We had been worried that home would feel different after what we had seen. We had not understood how different. The first thing I noticed as we approached Earth was the lights. Earth at night from space has always been a beautiful thing. Cities glowing on the dark side of the planet, tiny golden patterns where humans had built their homes and roads. I had seen Earth from space many times over my career, and I always felt a small ache in my chest when I came home. But this time the lights were different. There were too many of them. Sophie, I said, what am I looking at? Sophie pulled the picture closer on the main screen. She blew it up and we saw what was happening. There were lights everywhere, in places where there should not have been lights, out in the oceans, up in the high mountains, in the deep deserts, hundreds of lights, thousands of lights where there had been only darkness before. Construction, Clara said quietly. Sir, those are construction lights. They are building day and night all over the planet. We dropped into the atmosphere. We came down through the clouds and we saw the surface for the first time, and Peter said a word that I will not repeat, but that I forgave him for. The world was awake. Every shipyard on Earth, every factory, every great workshop was running. Smoke and steam rose from places that had been quiet for years. New ships were being built in great open frames, dozens at a time, in places where one ship had been built every 6 months before. Old factories that had made cars and washing machines were turning out parts for warships. New factories were going up in fields with workers swarming over them like bees, building a hive. And it was not just the factories, it was everything. We landed at the Pacific Station. Admiral Hill met me on the docking ramp with 2 doctors and a team of diplomats behind her. She was older than I remembered. The silver in her hair had gone almost white, but her eyes were not tired. Her eyes were burning. Captain Brooks, she said. Admiral, I said, your guests in the cargo hold. I said, Vashon, the senior speaker, is with them. They are weak but alive. There are 7,000 more of them in The system we left, they are hidden. Playing dead waiting, we will go back. For them, Hill said simply, within the month. I blinked, within the month. Admiral, you will see, she said. She walked me through the station. She told me what had happened in the 11 days I had been gone. The recording had played. First on emergency, broadcast in every country on every screen at the same hour, then it had been replayed every hour on every channel for 2 days. Then the people had not needed it replayed anymore because they had memorized it. Children memorized it, grandparents memorized it. The voice of Vashon asking for kindness was now the most heard voice in human history. The argument started right away. Some people said we should hide. Some people said we should try to talk to the Creon. Some people said we should run. The arguments went on for a day and a half. Then on the second day something shifted, Hill said. It was hard to describe even now. There had been no big speech. There had been no single moment. There had just been a kind of quiet that fell over the planet. Like everyone was thinking the same thought at the same time, and then in city after city, people started showing up at their local government offices. They did not protest. They did not shout. They asked calmly what they could do to help. By the third day, every shipyard in the world had a waiting list of volunteers 2 mi long. By the fourth day, factories that had been making toys were making power cells for warship engines. By the 5th day, the world governments had agreed, all of them, every single one, to a single emergency plan. They had not agreed on anything in 20 years. They agreed on this in 18 hours. By the time the patients landed on the 11th day, Hill told me more than 400 new warships were under construction. 400 in a week and a half. By people who in most cases had never built a warship before and were learning as they went. How is that even possible? I asked her as we walked through a long window that looked out over a field of construction lights. Below, it is possible, Hill said, because every single human being on this planet heard a voice asking for kindness, and heard a voice telling that first voice that asking for kindness was a weakness, and they decided all at once what that meant. We are not very smart, Captain. We argue about everything. We waste years on small things, but once in a great while we hear something that we cannot unhear, and then we move. I looked out at the lights. How much time do we have? I asked. The Crevon commander said 1 year, Hill said. Our best estimate based on the data you sent is between 10 and 12 months. We will be ready before then. Ready for what exactly? I asked. Hill turned and looked at me. Her eyes were still burning. Ready to go meet them, Captain, she said. We are not going to wait for them to come here. We are going to go to them. I stared at her. We are going to take the war to them, I said. We are going to take many things to them, Captain. Hill said. We have a lot to discuss. The Telari have given us coordinates of 42 other systems, 42 peoples who were ended before us. We have decided as a species that we owe each of those 42 peoples a visit. Even if there is nothing left to save, we are going to visit each one, and we are going to leave a marker, and we are going to remember. She paused. And then we are going to find the Crevon, she said. All of them, not just the ships that are coming for us, all of them, their fleets, their bases, their home worlds. We are going to find them, and we are going to make them understand a word that they have never had to learn before. What word, Admiral? I asked, although already knew. Hill looked back out at the lights. Stop, she said. I stood next to her in silence. Below us in the bright field of work, 10,000 small figures moved between the rising bones of new ships, and the sound of hammers and welding torches rose up through the glass like a kind of song. We were going to war, the whole species, all of us, together for the first time in our history, all of us together, and we were not going because we wanted to. We were going because someone had asked for kindness and someone else had said no. And we had decided as one people that this was the kind of universe we were not willing to live in. The fleet was ready in 8 months, not 12, not 10, 8. I have served in the Earth Survey Fleet for almost 20 years, and I would have told you before all this began that no human project had ever moved that fast. I would have told you that humans did not move that fast, that we always argued, that we always slowed each other down, that we always missed our deadlines. I would have been wrong. What we built in those 8 months was not just a fleet, it was a new way of being human. Old companies that had been competitors for 100 years sent their best people to work side by side. Countries that had not spoken in decades opened lines and shared their best research. Children gave up their summer holidays to help carry parts in factories. Grandmothers came out of retirement to teach the old skills, the ones that had not been needed in years. People did not ask what country a project was from, they asked what time their shift started. I spent those 8 months training. Patience was a survey ship, and I had been a survey captain. Now I was being asked to command a destroyer, a real warship with weapons I had never used, and crew rules I had never learned. I went back to the academy for 3 weeks of crash courses. I studied with men and women half my age who were doing the same. None of us had time to be embarrassed about being students again. We just learned. Vesson stayed with us through it all. She refused to leave Earth even when we offered her a comfortable home on a quiet colony. She said her place was with the people who had come for her. She walked through the shipyards with Admiral Hill, and she answered every question that was asked of her, and she did not flinch from any of them. She told us how Crevon ships were built. She told us their weak spots. She told us what their commanders ate for dinner and what they were afraid of, and how they spoke to each other when they thought no one was listening. She gave us everything she had. She also asked us more than once if we were sure. Captain Brooks, she said to me one evening in the small house we had built for her near the main Earth Fleet base, what your people are about to do is not a small thing. Once you start this, you cannot stop it. The Crevon do not give up. They do not negotiate. If you start this, you will have to finish it. Do your people understand that? They understand, I said, and they still want to do it. I thought about my last visit home. My wife Anna had taken a job at a shipyard. Even though she had been a librarian for 20 years, she came home every night with grease on her hands and a tired smile on her face. Lily, my daughter, had stopped drawing rocket ships with smiling faces. She drew Earth, now with people standing on it holding hands, and around the Earth in the dark space she drew a great wall made of human ships, all touching each other, all standing together. Yes, Vashon, I said, they still want to do it. The fleet that left Earth in the 8th month was not the largest fleet humanity had ever built. We did not have time to build the largest fleet. It was, however, the most determined fleet humanity had ever built. 1,200 ships, nearly a million crew, every captain a volunteer, every officer a volunteer, every cook, an engineer and medic a volunteer. We had turned more people away than we had taken on. The waiting lists had been longer than the rosters. I commanded the destroyer Steady Heart. My crew was 300 strong. My second in command was Clara Holt, the same Clara who had stood with me on the Patience when the first signal came in. Sophie Bell was my navigator. Again, Peter Walsh was my communications officer. Margaret was my chief medical officer. Owen and Grace were my chief engineers. We had asked all of us to stay together. Admiral Hill had said yes, because she understood something important. The crew of the Patience had been the first humans to hear Vessen's voice. We were the ones who had brought her home. There was a kind of meaning in that, and Hill respected meanings. Fleet flew first to the Telari system. We had promised Vessen that we would go back for the 7,000 survivors who had been left hidden on the 6 damaged ships. 8 months had passed. We did not know how many would still be alive. We did not know if any would still be alive. Vessen came with us. She rode on the lead ship, the carrier Bright Morning, where Admiral Hill had her command station. When we dropped out of fast travel above the Telari home world, Vessen was the first to see her dead world again. She did not cry. I do not think she had any tears. Clear's throat left. She just stood at the window and looked, and her hand moved up to touch the glass. 7,000 were still there. 6,413 of them, to be exact. They had lasted on what little they had, eating less than they should have, drinking water made from melted ice they cut from the moons. They had played dead exactly as Vessen had asked for 8 months. The Krevon had sent 2 scouts in that time, and the Telari had powered down everything, including their heat, and they had survived 2 cold sweeps where they had to lie still in the dark and listen to the scouts pass. 600 had not survived those sweeps. We brought all 6,413 aboard our ships. We gave them food and warmth and medicine. Many of them, when they saw Vashan again, did the strain Telari laugh that only happens in joy. The sound of 6,000 Telari laughing at once after 8 months of silence was something I will carry with me until I am old. Then we set our course for the next system on the list. We visited each of the 42 ended worlds. We did not stop fighting our way through them because there was no fighting to be done. Krevon did not stay. They came, they ended, they moved on. The worlds we visited were quiet places. Some had been ended a year ago. Some had been ended 1,000 years ago. We landed on each one. We walked through the old cities. We placed a marker on each world, a simple stone with words carved on it in the language of the people who had lived there, and in our language too. The words said the same thing in every tongue. We came, we saw, we remember. We took recordings on each world. We collected what we could of the books and the songs and the small everyday things that told us how those people had lived. We put it all on our ships. We were going to bring it home. We were going to build a place on Earth where every one of those 42 peoples would be remembered, where their music could still be played, where their words could still be read. None of them were entirely gone while we still remembered them. It took us 4 months to visit every one of the 42 worlds. By the time we reached the last one, we had found the Krevon, a small Krevon scout, had crossed our path on the way to the 39th world. We did not chase it, we let it watch us and let it report back. We wanted them to know we were coming. We wanted them to have time to think about it. We wanted them to sit for once in the dark the way their 42 ended peoples had sat in the dark. The scout brought us a message 3 days later. It was from a Kreen general called Valro the Untouched. The message was short. Earth Fleet, we do not understand what you are doing. The cleansing of your world is not yet upon you. You have many months. Still, why have you come into the deep sky? Why have you visited the resting places of the cleansed? Reply or face the consequences of your silence. Admiral Hill read the message on the bridge of the bright morning. She read it once, she read it again, then she looked up, sent a reply. She said, audio only, open frequency. I want every Kreon in the deep sky to hear it. Communications officer nodded. Hill stood up. She walked to the center of the bridge. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Valrock of the Krevon, she said, this is Admiral Margaret Hill, commander of the Earth Fleet. We have heard your message. Our reply is this: we are not coming because of fear. We are not coming because of anger. We are not coming to beg or to bargain or to plead. We are coming because we have decided that the universe you have built, where peoples are ended for asking for kindness, is not a universe we are willing to share. We do not seek your world. We do not seek your wealth. We seek your stop. You will stop today or tomorrow or in a year or in 10 years. You will stop. We will find you and we will speak with you, and you will agree to stop. If you do not agree, we will keep speaking. We will not run out of words. We will not run out of patience. We have 8 billion of us. We have learned in the last year how to make 100 ships in a month. We can keep making them for 1,000 years if that is what is needed. You have a choice now that you have not given to anyone else. You can stop on your own, or we will help you stop. Choose. End. Reply. The message went out. It went to every Krevon listening post, every base, every fleet, every world. It was repeated in every Krevon dialect we had been able to learn from Vashan and the other survivors we had picked up. It was repeated for 3 days on every frequency without stopping. The first Krevon reply came from a small fleet of 40 ships that came toward us at speed. We met them in open space. We did not destroy them. We disabled them ship by ship, weapon system by weapon system, with new tools that our engineers had built in the 8 months back on Earth. We took them apart like a clock. When their ships were quiet, we boarded them and we took the Krevon crews into our holds. We did not harm them. We fed them. We treated their wounded, and we played on a loop in their own language the message we had sent. We let them listen. We let them think. The second Kreon reply came from a larger fleet, 200 ships led by Valro himself. They came at us in the empty space between 2 dead stars. They expected to crush us. They had crushed all the others. The encounter lasted 6 hours. When it was done, our fleet had lost 47 ships. The Krevon fleet had lost all but 8. We disabled those 8 and took their crews aboard. Valro himself was on one of those 8 ships. He was brought before Admiral Hill in the main bay of the bright morning, in front of cameras that were broadcasting back to Earth, where Hill had been told every screen on the planet was showing the moment live. Valro was a tall thing, much taller than a human, with hard plates over his body and 4 arms that ended in clever hands. His face had no soft parts. His eyes were small and bright. You expected to win, Hill said to him. I expected to end you, Valra said. Translator made his voice sound calm. Many fleets have come for us in the past. None have been remembered. Why should yours be? You will remember us, Hill said, but we did not come here to be remembered, Valro. We came here for a single answer to a single question. Will the Krevan stop? Valro looked at her for a long time. Then he made a sound that was probably a laugh. You ask for our surrender, he said. I do not ask for your surrender, Hill said. I ask for your stop. There is a difference. You can keep your worlds. You can keep your people. You can keep your ways and your own places. I ask only that you stop ending other people's. Stop the cleansing. Speak the word, and we will go home. And if I do not speak the word, then we will go to your worlds, Hill said simply, and we will speak the word for you, and we will stay there in your skis until your people speak it back to us with their own voices freely. We will not harm your worlds, Valro. We will not end you, but we will not leave you alone either, not while you are still hunting. We will follow you forever until you stop. Forever is a long time. We have plenty of it. Do you? Valro was silent for a very long moment. We are warriors, he finally said. We do not stop. Stopping is a weakness. You may believe that, Hill said, but I do not think your people believe it anymore. Your people heard our message. They have been hearing it for weeks now. We have been speaking to them in their own words. On every frequency we can find, we have been telling them about the 42 worlds you ended. We have been showing them recordings of children begging your fleets for kindness. We have been telling them that they have been lied to, that their leaders like you told them that asking for kindness was weakness, when it was you who were weak all along for being unable to give it. We have been telling them that they can stop anytime they want. They are listening, Valro. Not all of them, but more of them than you would guess. She paused. Your people are not your fleet, Valro, she said. Your people are mothers and fathers and children just like ours. They have been told what to think for a long time. We are giving them, perhaps for the first time, another choice. You can fight us. You can keep fighting us, but you will be fighting us in front of your own people who are listening, and your people are going to make their own choice soon, with or without you. Valro did not speak for a long time. Finally, he said, what you are doing has never been done before. Yes, Hill said, we know. She let him go. That part surprised me when it happened. She let him go. She gave him back one of his ships. She repaired it, and she sent him home. She told him to think about what she had said. She told him to talk to his people. She told him that we would wait. We have time, Valro, she said as he left. We can wait a long time. Take as much time as you need, but while you are thinking, we will be visiting your worlds. We will not harm them. We will only speak. We will play our message. We will hold up the names of the 42 peoples who are gone, and we will see what your own people decide. He left. The fleet moved on toward the Krevan home worlds. There were 11 of them in a tight cluster of stars, far from where they had been ending other peoples. I did not know then how this story would end. None of us did, but I knew as I stood on the bridge of the Steady Heart and watched our fleet move forward into the sky that something had changed in my people that would never change back. We had become in the space of a single year the people who do not let things stand. Whether that was a good thing or a bad thing I could not yet say. I could only say that it was true. The Krevan home worlds were beautiful. That was the first thing that struck me when our fleet dropped out of fast travel above their cluster. I had been imagining ugly worlds, dark worlds, worlds full of black metal and cold stone. I had been imagining the kind of worlds that would make sense for people who did the things the Krevan did, but the Krevan worlds were not ugly. They were green and gold and rich rivers. They had cities that climbed up the sides of cliffs in great curves. They had wide farms and valleys. They had mountains so tall that the tops were always covered in white. They had children playing in the parks. They had old people sitting in the warm sun. They had families and friendships and songs. Vesson stood next to me on the bridge of the steady heart looking at the screen. Her face was very still. They are not different from us, Captain, she said. Quietly, not really. Their leaders told them stories. The stories taught them that the rest of the sky was full of weak peoples who needed cleansing. Their leaders told them that their work in the deep sky was holy. Their leaders told them not to ask too many questions, so they did not. Did your people know all this? I asked. Yes, she said. We tried to send messengers. We tried to send recordings. The Krevan leaders blocked everything. No Krevan citizen ever heard our voices until your Admiral Hill started speaking on every frequency. Now they are hearing us. Now they are hearing their own children calling out from worlds long gone in voices their own leaders had silenced. I watched the green worlds turn slowly below us. Admiral Hill had given orders that no shot would be fired at any Krevan home world, not one. And GT snorts. And GT, we were not here to harm them. We were here to do what we had told Valrock we would do. We were here to speak. Fleet moved into orbit around all 11 Kreon worlds, 1,200 human ships plus the 400 more that had been built and sent after us in the month since we had left Earth, almost 1,600 ships in total. We did not have to fire a single one of them. We just held our positions and we opened our channels and we began. For 3 weeks, we broadcast our message every hour on every frequency in every Krevan dialect into every home and every street. The message was Vesson's voice asking for kindness. Then the message was the voice of a Krevan child recovered from a recording the Krevan leaders had buried, asking why her brother had been sent to fight in the deep sky and never come home. Then the message was the names of the 42 ended peoples read out one by one in their own languages and in hours slowly. For hours and hours. Then the message was a simple offer. We had come to ask the Krevan to stop. We were not here to harm them. We would leave the moment they stopped. The choice was theirs. For the first 3 days, the Krevan leaders shouted back at us. They sent messages calling us many things. They told their people to ignore us. They told their people we were lying. They told their people that the 42 peoples had been ended for good reasons, but we kept broadcasting and we did not move and we did not fire. On the 4th day, a small ship lifted off from the largest Krevan world. It came up into orbit slowly and it sent a single message. The message was from a Krevan scientist whose name I Cannot say correctly, she said she wanted to come aboard our ship and speak with us. She said she was alone. She said she was not authorized by her government. She said she had something to say. He'll let her come. Scientist came aboard the bright morning. She was old by crane years. She had 3 of her forearms folded in front of her in what Vesson told us was a sign of grief. She spoke to Hill with cameras still broadcasting back to her own world, where her people would later learn every screen had been turned to the live transmission for hours. I am old, she said. I have lived through 5 cleansings. When I was young, I was told they were necessary. I was told the universe had to be made clean. I was told the peoples we ended were dangerous or weak or stained. I believed it. My children believed it. My grandchildren believed it. We sent them off to the fleets and we cheered when they came home with stories of victory. She paused. 3 weeks ago I heard your message, she said. I heard the voice of the Tari woman. I heard her ask for kindness for her children. I heard our own commander in the recording from the dying world telling her that asking for kindness was weakness. I heard him laugh. She closed her eyes. My granddaughter was on that ship, she said. She was 17 years old. She came home a week after that recording was made. She told us stories of victory. She did not tell us that she had laughed at a mother begging for her children. She did not tell us that she had ended children with her own hands. She did not tell us, because she had been told all her life that this was holy work and she had no words for what she had really done. She opened her eyes. Days ago my granddaughter listened to your broadcast with me. She said she listened to the names of the 42 peoples being read out. She listened for 9 hours. Then she went to her room and she did not come out. I had to break down the door. She was sitting on the floor. She was crying. Kreven, do not cry, Admiral. I have not seen a Kreven cry since I was a child. We were taught that crying was weakness. But my granddaughter was crying and she said to me, Grandmother, what have I done? What have we done? What have we been doing for 1,000 years? The scientist looked up at Hill. I have come to tell you, she said, that there are many of us, many. We have been silent for a long time. We did not have words. We did not have permission. We did not even have the truth. Now we have it and we are going to do something with it. What are you going to do? Hill asked. We are going to remove our leaders. They scientists said simply, quietly, if they will allow it, loudly if they will not. We are going to call a council of all 11 worlds. We are going to write a new law. The law will say that the cleansing is over. The law will say that anyone who orders another cleansing is a criminal. The law will say that the Kreen have a great debt to pay to 42 peoples and that we will spend the next 1,000 years paying it. She paused. We are also going to ask, she said, if your Admiral Hill and the Telari speaker Vess will help us. We do not know how to apologize for what we have done. We do not even have the words for it. We will need help. Will you help us? Hill looked at Vashan. Vesson stepped forward. She was very tall, but she walked slowly, like every step took something out of her. She stopped in front of the Krevon scientist. The scientist had 4 arms. Vesson had 2. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Vesson reached out one hand. The Krevon scientist looked at the hand. She had probably never been touched by a non-Revan before. She slowly reached out one of her own 4 arms. She placed her clever hand into Veshens, we will help, Vessen said. That moment, that single touch between two old women on the bridge of a human ship was broadcast to every screen on every Krevon world, to every screen on Earth, and to every fleet in our orbit. I am told that on Earth more than 5 billion people watched it live, and that for 10 full seconds after the moment ended, no one anywhere said anything. The world just sat in silence. Then Earth started crying. I did not learn that until later. My wife Anna told me. She said she had been at the shipyard, watching the broadcast on a big screen, with 300 coworkers, and that when Vessen and the Krevon scientists touched hands, every single person at that shipyard sat down on the floor and cried, not from sadness, not exactly from joy, from something else, something in between. The kind of crying you do when you have held your breath for a year and you are finally allowed to breathe again. Next 4 months were the strangest months of my life. The Krevon did what their old scientists had said they would do. Their leaders fought it at first. There were ugly weeks where some of those leaders tried to use force on their own people. We did not get involved. We just held our positions and we kept broadcasting. The Krevon themselves dealt with their leaders. They were strong people, and once they had their truth, they did not need our help to clean their own house. A new Creon Council was formed. It included the old scientist whose name turned out to be Mavoth. It included Valro, who came back to us with a different look in his small bright eyes, and who asked quietly if he could be useful. It included a young Krevon woman who had been arrested for trying to send messages out of the cluster years before, when she had first started asking too many questions. The new council wrote a law. The law was simple. The cleansing was over. The Krevon would never end. Another people, the Krevon would spend the next 1,000 years rebuilding what they could on the 42 worlds they had ended, where life could still be planted. The Krevon would welcome any survivors, like the Telari, into their cluster as honored guests for as long as they wished to stay. The Krevon would write the names of the ended in their own monuments, in their own cities, in their own children's school books, so that no Krevon child would grow up not knowing what had been done. The law was passed by the new council and then sent to all 11 Krevon worlds for the people to vote on. It passed on every world. Not a single world voted against it. The Krevon themselves, when given the truth, chose differently than their leaders had chosen for them. I do not think they will forgive their old leaders ever, but they did the work. They did it themselves. Our fleet stayed in orbit until the law was passed. Then we began to leave, not all at once. Some ships stayed with crews of teachers and doctors and farmers to help with the work of rebuilding. Most of the warships went home. The Steady Heart was one of the last to leave. I stood on the bridge as we pulled away from the Krevon home cluster. Vessen was next to me. We had become friends in the long year we had spent on this journey. We did not need to talk much anymore. We just stood there watching the green and gold world shrink behind us. What now, Captain? Vessen asked. Now we go home, I said, and we try to remember who we were before this all happened. Vessen did her tilted head nod. You will not go back to who you were before, she said gently. I am sorry, but that is true. You have changed. Your whole people have changed. You have learned that you can do this. You have learned that you can build a fleet in 8 months, that you can cross the deep sky together, that you can stop 1,000-year cleansing without ending the people who did it. You will not forget that you can do these things the next time something terrible happens somewhere in the sky. You will remember, you will go again. You think we will keep doing this? I asked. Yes, she said, I think you will. I do not think you will be able to stop yourselves. There will be other peoples in the deep sky who will need help. There will be other voices crying out in the dark. You will hear them, Captain Brooks. Your kind always hears them. You will go to them, and the galaxy will not be the same because of it. I thought about that. I thought about it for a long time. I'm still thinking about it. Even now, we came home in the late summer. Earth was waiting for us. Every shipyard had its workers standing in long lines, waving as our fleet flew over. Every city had its people in the streets. Every harbor had its boats out on the water with their lights burning. We came home to a planet that had stayed up all night just to watch us land. I went home to my house in the green hills. Anna was waiting on the porch. Lily was waiting next to her, taller than I remembered, with her hair longer and a small drawing rolled up in her hand. She gave me the drawing. It was Earth with people standing on it holding hands around the Earth in the dark. Space was the wall of human ships I remembered from before, but this time the wall had opened, and out of the opening my daughter had drawn a long line of human ships flying outward into the stars. At the front of the line was a small ship with a smiling face, just like the rocket she had drawn for me long time ago when I was a different captain on a different ship in a different version of the world. I asked her what the drawing meant. She thought about it for a moment. It means we are going to go where the crying is, Daddy. She said, we are going to keep going because that is what we do now. I looked at her. I looked at Anna. I looked at the green hills around our house and the blue sky above us, and I thought about Vessen's words on the bridge of the steady heart, and about Mav's hand in Vessen's, and about the long road that had brought us all to this moment. Yes, sweetheart, I said. That is what we do now. I put my arm around my daughter. We stood there on the porch in the late summer light. Somewhere far away in the deep sky, the galaxy was changing. New peoples were finding each other. Old peoples were learning to forgive. Children on dozens of different worlds were learning the names of the 42 ended peoples and the names of the human captains and admirals and shipyard workers who had said no, and the name of an old Krevon scientist who had been brave enough to come up to a human ship and tell the truth. And somewhere on some world we had not yet found, someone was sending out a call for kindness. We would hear it, we always do, and we would come.